Do you live in the US and want fast, fresh and tasty meals without the hassle of shopping or all that hard work preparation? Well, don't you worry, as a lazy man, I've got you covered. Try America's #1 meal kit service, HelloFresh, and get yourself fresh, pre-portioned ingredients delivered direct to your door. So why not eat well, stay healthy, and avoid the cost of regular takeout by trying HelloFresh? Just click the link in the description below for a special limited time discount and free shipping as well. Enjoy.
Hello, welcome to another managerial special in the Championship from the On Talk podcast. I'm Craig Savage. With me, as always, is Mr. Daniel Cody. The fourth club now to change their manager twice now is QPR. They have sacked Neil Critchley and have hired Gareth Ainsworth, a former caretaker manager of theirs. He's back at Loftus Road, but we'll get on to Gareth Ainsworth in a second. Let's talk about the previous manager, Neil Critchley. At the time, we both thought it's a solid appointment, but it turned out to be absolutely disastrous.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to put a bit of fairness in this, which is to say that QPR were already in a downward turn when Mick Beale left the club after he rejected the job at Wolves. I think between then and leaving for Rangers, they hadn't won a game. It all looked great at the start, didn't it? He came in, they won their first game 1-0 away at Preston. And who would have thought that that would have been their last win? It's a really bizarre spell. I don't really know what to make of it because, as you say, on paper, he's a well-renowned coach. He's done a very good job at Blackpool only a season ago in the Championship. And it was just an unmitigated disaster. I don't really know how to explain it. There are obviously some key stats where things have gone wrong, which we'll allude to later, that Gareth Ainsworth's got to fix. But it's one of the most bizarre ones we've seen this season. And to be fair to us, we're not often very wrong. But on that one, I think us and most people were very wrong because I think anyone saw that coming. Because Neil Critchley, well, he's been a success elsewhere. And here, it just went disastrously wrong.
No, it just seems to be just a bad fit, really. And obviously, there's some QPR fans that's now starting to turn on the board, and there's Ferdinand, and it just hasn't clicked. And it is what it is. 12 Championship games. He's somehow lasted longer than Kolo Touré, and he's another manager that's gone. This Championship season has been extraordinary for managerial merry-go-rounds, really. I think Sky put out a tweet yesterday saying 18 changes made so far by 14 different clubs. So you've got a massive playlist of managerial changes from the On Football podcast, so you might as well check them out. But yeah, Neil Critchley's gone 8.3%. A win record is probably one of the worst in the division. Probably, I said only Kolo Touré's probably got. But let's move on to the new man in charge at QPR. He's back. The rock and roller of Gareth Ainsworth. He did have 2 spells of caretaker charge many, many years ago. But in their club statement, QPR, he has signed a 3.5-year deal, same as Neil Critchley, which 3 months later he's gone. It's just as gone. After spending more than a decade of manager at Wycombe, 550 games at Wycombe, so that's a fantastic achievement for him. Ainsworth returned to Rangers, a club made 152 appearances between 2003 and 2010. He had 2 spells of caretaker manager during 2008-09 and was hugely popular amongst the fans with his passion and commitment in the blue and white hoops, and now he can't wait for a new chapter of the R's to begin. Ainsworth said, "It's been a whirlwind 2 days, and leaving Wycombe Wanderers was a tough because of the connection there. But this is QPR, and when I spoke about something special, forcing me away from Wycombe, this was pretty special. I want to get Loftus Road absolutely rocking again, and I hope the fans will get behind me and right behind the team." The CEO, Lee Hughes, said, "We are delighted to have been able to bring Gareth in so quickly. I'd like to thank Wycombe Wanderers for their professionalism. We have the utmost respect for them and are hugely sympathetic as we recognise the challenging nature of these circumstances. Gareth's determination to be a success is very evident, and we are excited to see an impact he will have." He also brings in Richard Dobson as his assistant head coach, which he had at Wycombe. Right, so Gareth Ainsworth, that was pretty much the only choice he could probably got. Well, to be fair, there were other names available in the free market, Nathan Jones, Chris Wilder, but this one seems to fit perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that Jones was the second favourite for the most part, which was interesting given what had happened at Southampton, but we've talked enough about him this season. It does seem like the right fit. There's a few things that are pulling me either way on this. The first one is this job has come up 3 times this year or since last summer. On every occasion, Gareth Ainsworth has been one of the favourites. My first question would be, well, what has he done this time that he hasn't done the other two? Because Wycombe haven't had their best season in the world. He hasn't proven anything he hasn't done before. So my argument would be, well, why didn't you appoint him the last 2 times if he was the perfect fit? Were you trying to be too clever? The second thing I'd say is, I know they've offered another 3.5-year deal. They need to be patient because, let's be fair, they let Warburton go at the end of last season, the club. They thought they could do better. He basically got let go for not making the playoffs with QPR. And I don't want to be rude or whatever with other teams, but there are 6 squads on paper that are better than QPR in the Championship. There are this season and there were last season. So you've got to be careful what you wish for because QPR haven't improved since Mark Warburton left the club. If anything, they've gone backwards. The Neil Critchley era is a disaster. The Beale era started well, it went backwards. But Gareth Ainsworth seems like the sort of man that can provide stability and get them back on the right track. I know there are preconceptions about the football he plays, and obviously Wycombe became very infamous for the, they highlighted the time wasting brigade, didn't they, with some of the tips and techniques, the goalkeeper injuries, that was a Wycombe original, that sort of thing. But I liken it to sort of Sean Dyche at Burnley, which is you play with the players you've got. And what he did there to get Wycombe into the Championship and then competing at the top end of League One virtually every other year was miraculous. And that after taking them up via League Two, of course, as well. He has taken that club to a level they've never been before. And now he needs to get QPR back to where they were. I think it's the right fit, but then we thought Neil Critchley was a good fit. So what the hell do we know? But on paper, he's a player who was a club legend as a player. He's someone the fans will get behind immediately, a bit like Warnock at Huddersfield, that sort of thing. Someone that's familiar. And QPR are on the outskirts of trouble. They need to get a few results, and I think he's the right man for that. But they've got to give him long-term support, and they've got to be realistic because some of the ways that Les Ferdinand has talked about the recruitment at the club as if they're signing mid-table Premier League players, which just isn't the case. So that's where I feel a little bit conflicted on it, and the fact that they didn't choose him the last 2 times. But for me, good appointment on paper.
Well, you mentioned about Les Ferdinand saying the recruitment process. They've signed Jamal Lowe on loan from Bournemouth. Ethan Laird obviously came in the summer. And Tyler Roberts obviously came in from the summer. Chris Martin just signed a couple of weeks ago on a free. You can easily see Chris Martin being an absolute vocal point with Lyndon Dykes as well, considering how the way Ainsworth playing with Wycombe with like Azam Vokes or an Akinfenwa.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. While, again, I go back to the Sean Dyche situation with Everton because it's been a prominent one recently. While there are some misconceptions on the way they play, one thing we do know is that Gareth Ainsworth is going to have a big striker in that team. And as you mentioned, there's a few very good candidates there. I would just go back to that recruitment as evidence, good Championship players, but are they the ones that are going to get you promoted? I'm not so sure they are, to be honest. But I think Gareth Ainsworth will do a solid job. The truth is, if he can pick up a couple of wins, get Loftus Road rocking, as he mentions, a couple of gritty 1-0 home wins, the fans will get behind them. They'll be comfortably safe for the year, and then they can start to focus on the summer early. And he can almost have an evaluation of his squad in games for the last 5 or 6 weeks. I mean, we were talking prior to coming on to do this episode, and QPR have got a friendlier run in than most of these manager specials we've done recently. So there is a chance they could go on a run. We saw it, was it 2-3 seasons ago where Mick McCarthy came in at Cardiff and they flew from about 18th up to the outskirts of the playoffs with a few games to go. So it's not beyond the realms with the Championship so tight. But yeah, I think he'll have a focal point up front. I wouldn't be surprised if at home he went for a 4-4-2 or a very aggressive 4-3-3. But I think we'll see, whilst maybe direct football, I think we'll see far more attacking football than we saw at Wycombe because of the likes of Ilias Chair and the creativity in the team.
But surely the first priority for the QPR is keeping a clean sheet, because looking at the past results, the last time I kept a clean sheet was Boxing Day and that 0-0 away at Cardiff. So you surely you want a sharp shot first and then, as you said, build on to get goals. Yeah,
and it is something that we know that Gareth Ainsworth is good at. That's something his Wycombe side was built on because it didn't have the big budget, the big technical ability. It had players who were disciplined and well worked. And like you mentioned, since Critchley's first 2 games, they haven't kept a clean sheet. They've been woeful from open play. set pieces hasn't been as much of a problem, but we know that Gareth Ainsworth likes them himself. As I mentioned, I think if they're going to be picking up wins, they're going to be gritty 1-0 home wins. They're going to get the fans behind them. And for QPR, it's about taking the lead in a game. That's something else they've very rarely done recently. But the biggest problem, I was looking at the stats before this, the last 13 games, they've let in 13 goals in the last half an hour. Now, you'd be upset if you've let in more than 13 goals anyway. That's one a game to start with. To let in one a game in the last half an hour of matches on average is ridiculous. So is there a fitness issue there? Is there a concentration issue? Was it an issue with the subs that Neil Critchley was making, or a lack of squad depth? Could be any of those things, but that's something Gareth Ainsworth's got to address, because if they can get into a lead in a game, he's got to instill his Wycombe discipline into this QPR team, because the late goals have got to stop.
Right, let's look at the next fixtures. A key one to start with is a home game for Gareth Ainsworth to get that Loftus Road rocking, at home to Blackburn. And then after that, they go away to Rotherham, home to Watford, away to Blackpool, and home to Birmingham. So it's a pretty good next month or so.
Yeah, I was looking at the home fixtures they've got. Obviously, Blackburn are doing all right at the moment, but that's largely based on their home form in their first game. But after that, I think apart from Norwich, they've not got anyone who in the away form table is in the top 8 of the league. So they've got a real chance to make Loftus Road a fortress. They've got a lot of sides scrapping for relegation. That might well prove to be a bad thing later in the year. But then you look at the last few games as well. The last 3 games are Burnley, Stoke and Bristol City. The last 2 are probably going to be safe but with nothing to play for. And Burnley have probably won the title by then, the way we're going, unless they have a major slip up. So there could be a chance for them to really cause a little bit of an upset later in the year. I won't spoil what I've gone for Saturday, because I've just recorded the predictions. You can see that tomorrow, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But then, as you mentioned, when you're playing the likes of Rotherham, Blackpool, Birmingham, Wigan, Preston in a run after that, that's a run of winnable games. Now, you know those sides are scrapping for their lives, but if Gareth Ainsworth can get that opening win on the first day and then instill that belief that, hey, the playoffs are only 9-10 points away, whatever they'll be at the end of the weekend, then maybe. I don't think they'll get there, because I don't think their squad's as good as some of the top 6, but I can see them easily creeping up towards the top half, because there's some teams just above them. I mean, I know you're a big fan of Swansea and all that sort of stuff, that are dropping like a ton of bricks. So they'll be comfortable. They'll get some results, but I'm not sure they'll be consistent enough to push anywhere beyond mid-table this year.
Yeah, obviously I don't do the prediction show anymore, but you know where I'm going, because it is Blackburn and how inconsistent Blackburn are. I think, to be honest, I think QPR probably will nick that 1-2-1, just because he will get Loftus Road rocking first game. The crowd will be on this. The crowd will be on this. The crowd's already on his side anyway, so he's worried. He doesn't have to win them over much. He's really won them over. So
we saw it at Huddersfield last weekend, didn't we? Exactly the same thing.
Yeah, exactly the same with Warnock. So crowd will be that cliche of a 12-man, all that stuff. But yeah, that will get them rocking. I think they'll win that first game. As I say, it's that consistency, and that's why QPR haven't had that consistency all season, really. But I say consistency all season. They haven't had that consistency for a very long time. You see them drop off end of last season. He can easily turn this around for QPR. But a 3.5-year deal, we normally say, do you think he'll... Well, let's get to the first question. How do you think he'll see out the rest of the season?
Mid-table, they'll rise a few positions. I'd say just creep into the top half. But I'm not ruling out a playoff push yet, but just top half for me.
To be honest, I'm thinking 12th to 14th, just keeping solid ground. So then he can build come the summer. Do you think he'll last 3.5 years?
See, normally the immediate answer is no, because that's how the championship works. The average lifespan's less than a year. But we've seen that QPR, if they get the right fit, have given time before with Warburton, albeit they probably should have given him more based on what happened since. The issue here is the Ainsworth style. If you put them together, Ainsworth and Warburton styles are very different. That is a long way to take this club in the space of a year. And I'm not sure the squad fully suits him yet. He may well be able to turn that. Maybe they'll have a big overhaul in the summer. I don't know. I'm going to say no, because 3.5 years seems a long time for any championship manager, but I think he's got a better chance than most. And if you were to ask me another way, I think he'll outsee the average lifespan. I would predict him to be at QPR at the end of next season.
And one final question. Do you think he'll take any Wycombe players come summer?
I'm not sure about that because most of the players, he's always built a very experienced squad. He's often caught experienced players coming down, a few loans and a few players coming up, but I'm not sure there's anyone there that's going to jump up to that quality, frankly. If he'd been a few years younger, he probably would have had Joe Jacobson just for the set piece delivery. But for me, I can't see how he does that. It's got to be head over heart at this point. And I think hopefully Wycombe, we've seen them, they're a well-run club. They've been good to us as a podcast in the early days. Hopefully they've got a deal in that means they won't lose a number of their players as well. But I can't think there'd be many.
No, to be fair, I agree. Especially with what you said about how long he'll last. I hope he does last the 3.5 years. I think if they're loyal to him,
oh, I hope so. Yeah,
it's a club legend that you're not going to do that to club legends. Maybe
we've seen many examples of suggesting the opposite.
Yeah, but I hope they don't. I hope they stick by him, have that project, stick to the project, what they've got, and hopefully they can push on. But that is our thoughts on the sacking of Neil Critchley and the hiring of Gareth Ainsworth as their new head coach of QPR. Let us know in the comments what you think of the appointment, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter at HonestFootball3. Find out on Cody Sports and what he predicted for QPR's first game against Blackburn in the prediction show later this week. I'll see you next time.